Hello, team players. I'm finally getting back to teamwork builds, and I've gotten another request from my tier 3 patron, so let's just get right into this. So the request is simply for a build that would be good in the Wardens of Wildwood adventure path. I already had one in mind that I think thematically fits that adventure path, and it starts with the Catfolk Ancestry. And yes, I am aware that Catfolk's about to get remastered in Player Core 2. But I do think that the Ancestry absolutely fits this build. And this build requires a claw attack, which means there's only one base Catfolk heritage we can take, and that is the Clawed Catfolk. This gives us a claw unarmed attack that deals 1d6 slashing damage and has the agile, finesse, and unarmed traits. That's going to be very important for the free archetype we're going to be taking in this build. For today's class, we're going with the Flurry Ranger. Again, that Flurry Hunter's Edge is going to be very important for this build. For today's background, I went with Hunter. As number one, it fits the build, and number two, it is one of the recommended backgrounds in the player's guide for Wardens of Wildwood. Plus, it gives us the stats we need. Speaking of which, your most important stat here is going to be dexterity, as we won't be able to wear too much armor in this build, and we do need high AC. In addition, all the strikes we have in this build have the finesse trait, which means we can use our dex to hit. But we are also going to need strength because we want to grapple in this build. And finally, we do have some warden spells in this build, which means wisdom's going to be important too. I know that Catfolk get a ability flaw in wisdom, but you're still going to be able to have pretty high spell attack rolls and DCs, as long as you're increasing your wisdom when you can. For our first class feat at level 1, we're going to be going with Initiate Warden. And the spell we want to pick up is the new Distracting Decoy spell from Howl of the Wilds. This allows us to target a creature within 10 feet and force them to make a will saving throw or become off guard. Or if they critically fail, we can also lower their offense with this. And then for our level 1 ancestry feat, we're going to take Catfolk Dance. This is pretty much the same thing, except that it targets their reflex DC and not their will save. And instead of affecting their attack rolls, it affects their reflex save. We'll talk about why we're taking both of these in the teamwork report. But first, let's talk about level 2. For starters, we do need to take Monster Hunter here. We can now recall knowledge as part of our hunt prey action. In addition, if we critically succeed on our recall knowledge, we and any allies that we tell get a +1 bonus on our next attack roll against that creature. Then we want to pick up Advanced Warden, so we can pick up the Soothing Mist focus spell. This allows us to heal a target and any one source of persistent acid, bleed, fire, poison, or void damage. We can also use this to damage an undead target. If we do, that unarmed target takes 2 persistent vitality damage if it fails a basic fortitude save. Now I know I normally don't talk about free archetype all that much, but for this one, it's going to be vital that you have free archetype. So for our free archetype at level 2, we're going to be taking the Clawdancer dedication. This gives us our Claw Stance and our Talon Stance, which we are going to want to be in one of those constantly. Like, as soon as you get into combat, you want to go into one of those 2 stances. And then at level 4, we will want to take Dancing Pound. We do have to be in Claw Stance for this, but we can spend 2 actions to leap. And if we end our movement adjacent to an enemy, we can make 2 frenzied claw attacks against that enemy. This does increase our multiple attack penalty as normal. But if you watched my Clawdancer Archetype video, then you know how great of action economy this feat gives you. And later on, we will be taking the feat that basically makes the big downside of this feat non-existent. In the meantime, though, we do need to talk about our 5th level Ancestry feat, and we're going to go with Graceful Guidance. This allows us to use the aid reaction on reflex saves rather than just on skill checks and attack rolls. We do have to prepare to aid as normal, but this build really doesn't have a whole lot of reactions, And we're going to have great action economy in this build, so preparing to aid is something we can do on our third action. As even with Flurry Hunter's Edge, we really don't want to waste actions on an attack that's just going to miss. Alright, for team report number 1, the reason that we are taking both Distracting Decoy and Catfolk Dance is because they both target different saving throws. Sometimes enemies are going to have a high will save, so it is beneficial for this build to have multiple ways of making the opponent off guard to everyone that target different saving throws. And with these two feats, we have a way of making the opponent off guard to everyone that targets all 3 saving throws. Low will save, use Distracting Decoy. Low reflex save, use Catfolk Dance. Low fortitude save, grapple them. We're not going to be great at grappling yet, but that is an option we can do. And remember, Catfolk Dance also lowers their reflex save, making this feat great in combination with any spellcaster that has damaging spells that target reflex save. Such as, how about a fireball? As for Monster Hunter, we mainly need that for feats we're going to take later, but since we need our wisdom to be high for our warden spells, we might as well take advantage of it in another way, and that's recall knowledge. Especially if we can roll nature for it instead of something else, which we will be able to do on all recall knowledge checks involving creatures eventually. As for our Soothing Mist warden spell, that just gives us a healing option, and it is always beneficial to have more options than less. For our free archetype though, the Clawdancer Archetype actually gives us insane action economy. Most of the stuff we can do with our Clawdancer Archetype is attacks. However, with the Agile trait on our Claw Stance and our Flurry Hunter's Edge, we are going to hit a lot more often than you would think. Which means if we're in Claw Stance, it may be beneficial to actually make a third attack on our turn. But remember, we do have other options to use on our third action. For example, Distracting Decoy is a 1-action spell, and Recalling Knowledge can be very important for any build. And it will be particularly good with this build when we take a certain feat down the road. Bottom line here is use your abilities to make the opponent off guard to everyone and then attack. At this level, that's the main thing you want to do. Once we get past this level, we're going to have other options, which I'll talk about in Team Report number 2. I did forget to talk about general feats, so really quickly, we need to take Die Hard Toughness, Kenny Ekman for our will saves, Fleet, and True Perception. But moving on to level 6, we do want to take Masterful Warden for the new Threatening Mimicry spell, allowing us to frighten foes in a 10-foot emanation and keep them frightened as long as they keep damaging us. Then we want to take Wheeling Grab so we can tumble through an enemy's space and grab them. Then it's Warden's Boon so we can give our Hunter's Edge benefit to an ally for a round. And Feline Dance to help us even more with our reflex save and allow us to switch stances as part of it. For our level 9 Ancestry feat, we're going to be taking Pride Hunter. This allows us to use lesser cover from our allies to hide, which is another way we can get that off guard condition. At level 10, it's Master Monster Hunter, so we can use nature to identify any creature. In addition, we get the effects of Monster Hunter on a successful recall knowledge rather than just a critical success. At this level, we'll also want to take Spinning Stand, so that if we're prone, we can just get back up and make an attack. Next up is Double Prey, so we can hunt 2 creatures at the same time. And Springboard will let us leap without triggering reactions, and then make a strike if we land near a creature. For our level 13 Ancestry feat, we're going to take Black Cat Curse to make an opponent roll a saving throw twice and take the worst results. Next is Shared Prey, allowing us to essentially give one ally our Hunter's Edge benefits for the entire combat. And Precise Hooks will give us 2 critical specialization effects whenever we crit with our claws. Next at level 16, we've got Legendary Monster Hunter, making us even better at recall knowledge, and Tear Tendons. This allows us to make 2 frenzied claw attacks on the target, and if they fail on a fortitude save, then they're enfeebled 2 for 1 round. Or if it critically fails, then enfeebled 2 for a minute. Our last ancestry feat for this build is going to be Caterwaul, essentially allowing us to give an ally Orc Ferocity once a day. Except we will want Warden's Focus here, because we do have Warden spells in this build. And Claw and Talon Flow will let us switch stances and make a strike for 1 action. And the last 2 feats for this build are going to be Triple Threats, allowing us to give our Hunter's Edge benefit to 2 allies, and Obsidian Shards, allowing us to do persistent bleed damage for an action after we hit with our claws. For Teamwork Report number 2, let's talk about feats like Warden's Boon and Shared Prey. We're taking those because just imagine giving Flurry to a fighter. I mean, fighter already crits more than any other class, but imagine giving him less of a multiple attack penalty, especially if he's using agile weapons. You can also give it to classes like Barbarian or Monk. Even if it is just for a round, that's pretty amazing. Then for feats like Master Monster Hunter, remember that we have an ability that makes the opponent off guard for every single saving throw. And this will let us figure out which one of those to actually use very effectively. Because remember, as long as you've been upping your strength with this build when you can, you should be a lot better at athletics at this point and therefore grappling people. And also tripping people if Catfolk Dance doesn't work. The skills that you want to focus on in this build are acrobatics, athletics, and nature. But we still want to be at least decent at stealth in this build. Which is why we're taking Pride Hunter, so we can more easily hide from enemies if we need to. And we do have 2 focus spells here that require saving throws. So Black Cat Curse is going to be pretty important here, as that just makes them roll twice and take the worst result, which is basically disadvantage. But remember, we can use this on any saving throw a creature within 30 feet has to make, even from effects from our allies. So you are going to have to be careful about when you use that feat, as it is a once per day thing. As for our free archetype, Wheeling Grab is literally the best feat in the entire Clawdancer Archetype, so of course we're going to take that. Assuming it works the way I think it does. There's a typo in the feat, so it's a little confusing as to how exactly it works. Hopefully we get the errata on that pretty soon. Other than that, Spinning Stand is for when we miss both strikes with our dashing pounce, and any other time we are knocked prone. And for the rest of the feats, I just took what I thought were the best feats for this build. But you can take whatever for the rest of them, to be honest with you. But the ones I have covered in the teamwork reports are the most important ones. You could even take a different archetype if you wanted. Oh, except for Terror Tendons, because that's really good as well. And it's another ability we can use Black Cat Curse on. Strength-based enemies will hate you if you use that feat on them, especially if they critically fail on their save. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and do all that other YouTube stuff. If you want my videos early, or to get Google Sheets for teamwork builds like this, you can join my Patreon page. But if you just want my videos early, you can become a member of this channel. But if you're interested in other feats you can take from the Clawdancer Archetype, I've got a video for that right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.